always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hello guys, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Entertainment Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Aseel. How is everyone doing? I missed you guys. I feel like I say that every episode, but it's true. So it's still Ramadan for me, which means I fast from sunrise till sunset. Yes, no water. And I'm honestly so hyped and so excited for tonight's iftar. Iftar means breakfast, basically what we break our fast with. And because my mom is making one of my favorite dishes, it's a Middle Eastern Palestinian dish called maklube. Maklube, the way I'm saying it. Maklube is literally the real definition of it is upside down, guys, which basically is fried potatoes, then what else does she put? Then cauliflower, eggplants, you stack them on top of each other, and then you put the chicken on top, and then you put the rice with a bunch of spices and herbs, and not herbs, just spices. And let me tell you, and then she flips it upside down, and you take it just like, please go search it up. You just flip it upside down, and it looks like a cake, but it's not a cake. It's actually really good. I am so excited to eat, guys. I'm actually so hungry today, but it is what it is, right? So she's making that, and I am thrilled for it. I can't wait, honestly. And we still have about 3 hours to break our fast. Honestly, fasting is not even that hard. I just get thirsty a lot versus really hungry. But really, that's been what's going on with today. How is everyone doing? I actually been doing well. The weather is beautiful outside. I feel like I always have to talk about the weather when I introduce every episode. I don't know why, because every week or every time I record an episode, the weather is bipolar around me. But thankfully, this week has been good. It's been a little chilly at night, but other than that, it's perfect during the day. It's not too hot or too cold. I mean, it could get a little warm during the evening, but it's not bad at all. I actually love it. But really, that's been all. I actually do want to talk about the food that I ate yesterday too. I had Korean food, and I 100% recommend. Love Korean food. I kind of love our foods. Maybe because I'm hungry, so I just want to talk about food right now. Maybe. I don't know. But I've just been in love with anything different. I like to adventure out when it comes to different foods out there. Just me. And so I had Korean yesterday. And maybe I'll have Turkish this week as well. Who knows? You never know with me. But for today, honestly, we will be talking about the Oscars, and then we will be covering Grey's Anatomy. Yes, originally I just wanted to talk about the Oscars in this episode. I just wanted to have a special episode about the Oscars. But then I was like, no, I kind of need to talk about Grey's Anatomy. We kind of talked about how I talked about in the previous episode, if you listened, how I am obsessed with Grey's Anatomy. And in the recent episode, there was this huge scene that everyone was talking about. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely adding this to the new episode because I have to talk about it. I'm obsessed. So yes, we will be talking about Grey's and the Oscars this episode. So I want to talk about the dream wedding. Okay, guys. So if, as you guys would know, Meredith was in a coma because she had COVID, and in her coma she had dreams, and in the dreams past characters would come in the show, and basically it was just like whether it was Lexi, Derek, there was a lot of characters that just came back from previous episodes or previous seasons that passed away, you know, in the show. So it was crazy for the fans. I just want to start off with saying that, do you guys remember when Arizona, she's a character, when she said Derek was epic for her, they were the greatest love story? I mean, that girl's heart beats for Derek Shepherd, and I agree with Arizona because, oh my gosh, are you guys ready? Drum rolls. Okay, so in the last episode of Grey's, there was a dream wedding for Meredith and Derek. They actually got married on the beach, and that goes back to one of the episodes on Grey's when Derek was still not dead, unfortunately. Tears coming down. When Derek was still alive, and he told the Meredith, he was just, I think they had if I remember the scene, he just told her that they would have a wedding on the beach, and I think it's very lovely that they made this possible for the fans to see. You know, I feel like the Meredith and Derek's wedding almost makes it up for killing him off, because we got to see it. I feel like if he was still on the show, we probably wouldn't have been able to see that. Probably. But it's not quite, you know, making up for it. I mean, I'm still mad at Shonda for killing Patrick Dempsey, or not killing Patrick Dempsey, sorry, for killing the character that Patrick Dempsey played. But it is what it is. I mean, we're over it right now, right? But I think it was a very beautiful scene, very emotional. And I just did not expect it. Let me tell you, when I saw this scene, I started crying, and I'm not joking. My sister thought something happened in my life. And I was like, no, Derek and Meredith got married. Like, what? I just think it was the perfect transition to what happened in the scene before, them laughing and whatnot. This is like the closest thing to their Bahamas beach wedding that we wanted to see, you know? And honestly, them laughing together again is everything I've ever needed. And the fact that also, like, those little details of even Zola, she had a picture of Meredith and Derek in her room. If you want to cry, just watch that whole episode. It will make you, like, it's like torturing for you. Actually, that reminds me, in the scene when when Meredith asked Derek, what do you want me to promise? He goes like, to torture yourself less. And that's honestly when I lost it. And I think this episode tops every episode in season 17. It was beautiful. These two, like Derek and Meredith, Patrick, the way he looks at Ellen never changed ever since episode 1. Their chemistry is out of this world. They have it's the sparkle, you know. I think they have something that a lot of actors don't have, and that's why even years later they're still very popular, and they still were trending. Like, actually, the name Derek was trending on Twitter more than Grey's Anatomy itself. So that just tells you a lot about how much the character is loved and how much Patrick Dempsey made an impact on the show. You know, when Derek told her, in the scene, Derek tells her, I don't want you to leave the kids either, because she says that, and that honestly broke my heart. I wish he was there for the kids as well. I want to thank Patrick and Ellen for bringing the magic of Murder back together. Murder is Meredith and Derek, you know, their ship name, guys. I've watched that scene of them getting married so many times, and I still get chills every time, and I don't know how I'm going to cope without them, honestly. And the scene was everything. Honestly, like, everything about it. And having to say goodbye to Derek again is just heartbreaking. It's harder than the first time, you know. I don't think writers understand how hard it is to say goodbye to a character that's very, very loved. And If you look at the fridge later in the episode, you can also see the drawing by Ellis, their daughter. It's the wedding scene. You know what? I just can't believe they did that. I cannot. I never had any hope that Patrick would come back to the show, and here he is. Yeah, it's just, it's just the reminiscing everything. And this is the content every single person that watches the show needed after all these years. In season 5, Derek tells Meredith, what do we want to promise each other? And in season 17, Meredith tells him, what do you want me to promise? I feel like this was more like an additional promise for their post-it notes when they laughed and looked at each other and said, and like it just shows them that their love story is just so great, and nothing that anyone can really replace it. No one can replace Derek, and no one can replace Meredith. I mean, she's not dead on the show, but no one can replace Derek, honestly. And after all these years, like they made me cry like a baby. Everyone cried during the scene, and I loved how supportive he was for her, and I just miss them. Honestly, I wished he never died, but it is what it is. At least we got him to get back on the show, right? And not to talk about the fact that Patrick Dempsey even talked about the wedding. Patrick Dempsey is happy with his Grey's Anatomy character's emotional return and the heavenly wedding. He opened up about the long-awaited scene and how the whole, like, him coming back is very unexpected. It is unexpected. No one expected it, but whatever. He said, I thought it was a beautiful way to close it. He said in an interview with The Variety, during the ongoing season 17 of Grey's Anatomy, Patrick Dempsey's character, Derek Shepherd, died, let me remind you, season 11. So he came back literally 6 years after. He came back kind of like as an angel for Meredith. Coma. He was like he came back as in her coma dream, like we said, who was battling COVID-19. And they finally tied the knot in their beachside dreamscape wedding in Meredith's coma dream. And he said the intention was to really give people some hope because they are such an iconic couple. We've lost so many people this year. The thought that we'd have angels hovering around us, taking care of us, is a good message to send out in such a bleak world that we are living in. The actor even said that it was a beautiful ending to his story and his character's romance with Grey. He also said, I am so grateful that I did it and happy that the fans really loved it. And yes, we did love it, Patrick. When he was asked if that was the last time he'd appear on the show, he said, who knows? Oh my gosh, there's a possibility that he will come back in the future, and I do not care if he's an angel. He comes back from the dead. If he comes back, he comes back, okay? It is what it is. And then he said, never say never with this show, right? And then he said, I'm glad we did it this year. This whole thing happened was because he said when they start shooting the scene, he said we all cried at the beginning, we hugged each other. He explained that the whole reason for Derek's return and Pompeo's coma dream was to encourage people to be safe during the pandemic. He said it was really for us to get the message out there to wear a mask, take care of yourself. He said, Ellen and I were like, what can we do together to make some impact here? That was in the spring around this time last year. It just was a positive action that reverberates into more positive action. And I'm so glad that they took this decision and he came back 6 years later. It's never too late with Grey's. I hope he comes back for good in the next season. I mean, I think the show will end probably soon. I have a feeling that it will. But if he comes back, I don't care if he comes back from the dead. Some things are just not logical on this show, and I'm down for it, and this is where I'm okay with it. So, I hope everyone watched the scene, or if you love Derek, go watch the episode. I think it's iconic. I love the couple. Murder forever. I just think no one can top the chemistry that Patrick Dempsey and Ellen Pompeo have. So, yep, I will always ship them. And stay tuned, guys, because we will talk about more Grey's Anatomy, and then we will dig into the Oscars for this year.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hi guys, and welcome back. So for the last segment, we talked about the one and only Grey's Anatomy. We talked about one of the most emotional, devastating, heartbreaking scenes, but made us happy, the murder wedding. It was just an emotional scene. I was so happy to see Patrick back on the show, but at the same time, their wedding was iconic. They're iconic. Meredith didn't know what to choose, whether to be on Earth or to pass away. But she did not give up. They both... And during the scene is when Meredith and Derek decided that they should... Well, not they. That Meredith should stay on Earth for their children's sake. So before... the two. And the scene, we get to see both Derek and Meredith on the beach having themselves a wedding attire. Derek is in a khaki suit, Meredith in a long white dress holding a bouquet. And I just want to remind you guys that they never had a formal wedding. They had a post-it wedding, and they just went to the courthouse and had a regular fast court wedding, if you guys can call it that. But we never saw the whole dream of Meredith and Derek not on the beach, so we kind of saw that, and that's why it's a huge deal, okay? And then their daughter Ellis even drew a picture of their dream wedding, which was hung on their fridge in their house. And the two shared a laugh as Derek joked that Ellis gets her desire for a real wedding from his mother. Meredith then asks him what he'd like her to promise, and his response, that she should torture herself less. That is the cutest thing ever, knowing how Meredith always puts everyone first versus herself. Then Meredith says that she doesn't want to leave the kids, and he tells her that, with his dreamy eyes, that I don't want you to leave the kids either. As their daughter Zola begs her mom to wake up in real life, Derek tells her it's not your time, our kids need you. After this, Meredith finally wakes up. Of course, the fans couldn't help but be heartbroken to watch Mick Dreamy walk away for the second time now. Second time, guys. So can you imagine the trauma we're going through? Having to say goodbye to Derek twice? Not okay. His tragic death on the show 6 years ago was in April, and his second goodbye was in April as well. It's like not a coincidence anymore. This is all planned. I'm like determined. I know it is. It's devastating, a twist of fate. I don't care. It's just too much for us. But at least we got Meredith Grey and Derek Shepherd married. And people were all over Twitter just having a blast about it. They just did not believe it. And yes, it does hurt so much to see Derek leave, but Derek kind of brought her back to life. He was the reason why she came back to life. She was ready to give up, and he kind of pushed her away from that and showed her that there is more to life than giving up, and that your kids need you whether you like being here or not. Derek died, they had their beach wedding, then he left again, and then Meredith woke up. It is what it is. But it was such a bittersweet moment, and I'm so glad that Patrick Dempsey came back to the show, and he did talk about his character coming back and how he enjoyed being on the show with Ellen Pompeo, and how they wanted everyone to wear a mask, and that's why he originally came back to the show, is because he wanted to build up an awareness towards the pandemic and having people be safe. And before we go and talk about Lexi and Mark back on the show, you guys need to hear about this. Okay, so I was on Instagram. Actually, I saw it on TikTok first. I'm not gonna lie. This girl said, if you dial 929-266-5283, you will hear the last voicemail that Derek left to Meredith before his character died. And let me tell you, I did not grab my phone slow. No, I literally ran. It's like as if I was running for my life. Ran for my phone, and I dialed that number, and I dialed it around 70 times because it kept giving me like the user is busy. Why is everyone calling the number? I would dial it right now for you guys to hear the voicemail, but it finally worked as I was recording the podcast. I kind of just wanted to try it for one more time. I was like, let me try my luck, and it works. Damn, I did not believe that. I was like, what? So kind of like shed a couple of tears because I did originally hear it on the show, but I don't know why. I don't recall hearing the full voicemail that he left for her, because I remember that Meredith gave it to Amelia to hear, and we heard, I don't remember if I heard the full thing, but anyways, you guys can call this number 929-266-5283, and you will hear Derek's last voicemail to Meredith, which I don't know who did this whole thing, but whoever did it, you're a genius, because that's such a smart move. I would never think of this. I honestly don't know what kind of number is this, but it works. It's a New York number too. It works. I kind of wanted to talk about that because honestly, imagine just hearing Derek Shepherd on the phone, Patrick Dempsey. Imagine talking to a celebrity that you like and a character that you love. It's amazing. So I did it. It works. I dialed 70 times, but it works. Everyone is just trying to call the number because they want to see if it works or not. I kind of get the hype. So if you want to call 929-266-5283, go ahead and do it, because you will hear Derek Shepherd. I also do want to mention that Meredith does choose to wake up and be there for her children. And the thing she says when Zola's hugging her, she goes like, "We love you," which refers back to Derek. And then we get a flashback of Derek walking on the beach by himself, saying goodbye to us, which is why I'm saying goodbye to him twice. It's just devastating, and I am not well. It's not okay. But, Meredith and Derek together on the beach made me happy, and I think it's one of the best episodes I watched of Grey's Anatomy. It was a bittersweet moment. I wanted her to live because of the kids. I just wish she didn't have to leave Derek. Does that make sense? I feel like the show is going to have to end with Meredith dying peacefully, being old and senile, her kids all grown and living their own lives, and she kind of walks off on the beach with Derek. I feel like that would make sense. She's been through so much, so it would make sense for her to live a long life and have a good, peaceful ending versus what everyone expects for her not to have that peaceful ending. And then them walking on the beach at the end, it just makes more sense. And I'm glad that she decided to be there for her kids, because she never had hope that she would ever be a good mom, and she always thought that she would be like her mom, her own mom, as a horrible mother, and Derek always reassured her that's not going to happen. And knowing that Meredith needed to get back to her kids and family and friends is a beautiful ending to Derek, coming back to the show, because he was a reminder for her to get back on her feet for that. And her saying, "We love you, Zozo. We love you so much." She says "we" because she knows Derek loves their kids unconditionally, and she came back so their kids could have their parents back. Losing one parent on his own is very hard. Losing two parents like Zozo or Zola or their 3 kids wouldn't have been able to handle it very well. So she didn't want to risk that, and she fought for them, which is very beautiful, knowing that they both were there for their kids. I also wanted to say that the actress that plays Amelia, there's a scene where she's begging for Meredith to live. It's just so sad. Her acting is so real. I love the way she didn't overreact, but at the same time she reciprocated the feeling that she should, show the audience. Even though Derek leaving is official, but there's always hope that he could come back for the last season. I saw this tweet of this girl that she said that when Derek died, she actually skipped school the next day because she was so devastated. And she came back and tweeted something about, I saw it, now I forgot it, but that she skipped a work day because Derek came back on the show and left again, and she couldn't handle him leaving twice. I find that very hysterical, but very understandable. If I was a boss at my own job and someone wanted to leave because Derek Shepherd died, I would be there for them. Anyways, I hope everyone finds love like murder. It's everything. And the writers who wrote the script knew what they were doing for the fans. And I hope they keep going the same way for the rest of the season. Regardless of who the writers are. I think Derek and Meredith are the great love story, and her leaning on Derek and he hugged her, it's just so cute. I just love them so much. This is the content we always needed, and we got it. And I think I honestly think it comes from Ellen Pompeo and Patrick Dempsey coming together to bring that to the audience and their chemistry. And that brought more actors that left the show earlier to come back, such as the characters like Mark and Lexi. 17, which is where all the characters are coming back. They hinted that Mark and Lexi ended up together in heaven. Some viewers acknowledged Meredith's dream. Beach is like just her imagination. But even so, Eric Dane, the actor who plays Mark, suggested that Mark and Lexi's story continued after their death. He said Mark would have found Lexi. He would have found her eventually. So it looks like they are endgame as well, even if we didn't see it fully on screen. I do want to say the actress that plays Lexi, Chyler Lee, she was not actually on set. They had to do a green screen and connected the scenes together, which I would not have guessed unless you really pay close attention to the show. But I loved her coming back to the show. I love Lexi so much. And her latest return was one of the best, especially that people love Lexi and Mark. It's like they're as popular as Derek and Meredith. They would come next to me. But fans reacted with the reunion the same way as Derek Shepherd coming back. I think it's the same way. The pair, Mark and Lexi, sat down in Meredith's dream and they shared like a heartfelt conversation about life and nature and whether or not Meredith has any actual desire to leave her dream world. And that was all implications for the future for Meredith and whatnot. And, not long after, the pair were surprised by the sudden appearance of Mark Sloan, and who is obviously Lexi's love, who died in season 9. And they strongly implied Meredith's speech is sort of an afterlife waiting room for Meredith. And, in conclusion, we all guessed that Mark and Lexi are back together, and that's what matters. And I would love to see characters like Christina Yang coming back as well. That would be impossible, I feel like. Not for me, but I think the actress herself does not want to come back because she felt like Christina Yang had the best closure the show needs. But it would be awesome for her to come back at least for like 1 minute, the last scene of the last episode. But that's all for Grey's Anatomy, guys. Stay tuned because we will be talking about the Oscars in the next segments. See you then.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the third segment for today. Stay tuned because we will be talking more about the Oscars later for today's segment and the end of the episode. So we talked about in the previous segment about Grey's Anatomy finally giving Meredith and Derek their McDream wedding. McDream, get it? Hint, McDreamy. Yes, you got it. So I cried, you cried, all the audience that watched the episode who was obsessed with the show cried because that's what Grey's Anatomy gave us, those feels. Unfortunately, we were devastated, sad to see Derek say goodbye to us one more time, but at the same time, it is what it is, right? At least we got to see Patrick Dempsey coming back. And on the last episode of Grey's Anatomy, when Meredith was still in her coma, we saw the dreams on the beach, where she is reunited with old beloved characters who have since passed on the show, such as Mark, Lexi, George. And we were completely shocked when Derek Shepherd, Patrick Dempsey, surprised us with his return earlier in the season. And Meredith she had to decide whether she wanted to stay on the beach, her safe place during her recovery, which would mean afterlife with Derek, or return to the living. In the end, Meredith and Derek both decided that it is best that she would stay on Earth with their children. But we got to see the bittersweet TV moment we've always wanted to see, after the reference of the iconic, adorable post-it note wedding. And if you watch that in season 5, you would understand it's very, very iconic when it comes to Meredith and Derek's whole relationship. We found them in their wedding attire on the beach, and they promised each other. Well, Meredith promised him to stop torturing herself, And, they tied the knot on the beach, which was such a cute moment. They both shared a laugh as Derek joked that Ellis gets her desire for a real wedding from his mother. And then that's when Meredith asked him what he'd like her to promise, and his response was that she should torture herself less. She then says that she doesn't want to leave the kids, and he agrees. And then he says, "It's not your time. Our kids need you." After that, Meredith finally wakes up. Obviously, the fans were heartbroken watching McDreamy walk away. I'm crying. Just kidding. And then if you obviously watch the show, you know his death was very tragic, unexpected. It was just something out of this world. I just did not expect him to die. I mean, there was a lot of rumors going on around that time of the show, but you just never expect for him to die such a tragic way. But it is what it is, right? It hurts so much to see him walk away again, but Patrick Dempsey did say that there's always the possibility of him coming back. You just never know with Grey's Anatomy. And then I did talk about the fact that I called Patrick Dempsey, no, just kidding. I called Derek Shepherd, the number. And I kind of want to call with you guys to see just if it works or not again. And apparently if you call this number, it's 929-266-5283. You would hear the last voicemail that Derek Shepherd left Meredith before his character passed away. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it's working, guys.
God, I wish you could see this. Weather's classic Seattle. Water is so blue.
All I'm saying that it's working. Again, I didn't have to call 70 times this time. But yeah, that's what's working. And then we also did talk about the fact that Lexi and Mark came back. And the fans are very excited. We're very excited to see them come back to the show. Especially that we got to see them together. And everyone made speculations that they are together in the afterlife. Which is an ease to everyone. Especially that they are very, very popular. Very loved. And the way they even passed was very tragic. The way Lexi left was too much, But that was really it for Grey's Anatomy. I know I talked so much. It's because I love the show, and I love that it still has its sparkle, and the characters are very loved till this day. And I really liked what the writers are doing for this season. I think it's great. I think it's very remarkable, and it's something different. And then let's talk about the Oscars, guys. Let's do it. So, who has watched the 93rd Academy Award this year? I did not, and I don't know why I didn't. I didn't even know about it. I mean, I did know about it, but at the same time, I was just confused when it aired. I was like, "This is happening?" I had no idea that was happening. I don't know. I feel like before it was such a big deal. And now it's not as the big deal as it was. And that's what I kind of want to talk about. The Oscars for 2021 kind of was dead. The ratings were terrible. And people were saying that it should be written off. What do you guys think? Do you agree? I don't agree. I think it's something that should be happening every year because of the history that it has. But for 2021, it struggled to draw viewers this year. So it's no surprise that the ratings for the broadcast of the 93rd Academy Awards became very low, or was really low this year. It only attracted 9.85 million viewers. That's nothing compared to the previous ones and the history behind it. A 58% drop from last year's ceremony, which, by the way, previously it was set as a record as the lowest rated Oscars. Given these terrible numbers, it's easy to wonder if the award shows would be considered as important as it was in the past. But I think because of what's been going on this past year and the pandemic and the effect that it's been affecting everyone mentally, physically, personally, like on all levels, I think it would make sense as to why it hasn't been as popular, or it didn't gather as many viewers as before. It's sad, but there are several reasons why the Oscars and other movie awards shouldn't be written off just yet, you know? First, well, the bad news is the show ratings have been in free fall for years, and the chances of the Oscars ever again reaching the heights of the 1998 Oscar show, when there was over 57 million people that tuned in to see the Titanic's movie win Best Pictures, is kind of unlikely and kind of impossible right now, especially with that TV isn't as essential as it was before, especially with TikTok, YouTube, and social media platforms are highly invested in right now versus the TV. Before, people didn't have options, and now people have options. They watch things, they stream things on their phone, on social media platforms. They just see who the winner is versus watching it live and waiting who will win, basically. Right now, you could just Google it, and there you go. You see the winners. You just don't wait. Or you see the hashtag who won. And that has a negative impact on the TV part of it. The attention span has shortened for people. Plus, because of streaming services like Netflix as well, we would expect to be able to watch what we want when we want. You are not limited. You have the opportunity to open your show, your favorite show, or your favorite whatever you want to stream whenever you want. No one is holding you from watching it at a certain time. So award shows like the Oscars that stretch past 3 hours are really not worth watching live on the night that people could be or want to do something else. So I think that's enticing as to why this didn't work out this year to many viewers, especially when they can see clips of the best bits online shortly after they're broadcasted, literally like seconds after or like a minute after everything is recorded live. So everyone just posts it, or the media posts it as it's done. So people don't mind just waiting like a couple of minutes to see the results after it's, rather than watching 3 hours, or they can just read an article and read what's going on, or watch a 5-minute clip to see like a summary of what happened, you know? But there are reasons to believe that this year's ratings dip was an exception in a year, like I said, that included a pandemic and protests over racial justice and police brutality. You know, the Hollywood Awards felt particularly, like I said, did not have a value or a purpose, really, and people wanted to focus more on other aspects or what's going on around. So, do want to mention that movies were not given to us, they were just not there when the pandemic happened. So I think people did not have the opportunity to go watch movies or to see what's been going on in the whole cinema world. And I think that shuttered it all and removed it from our lives. And the studios delayed the releases of the most highly anticipated films because of the pandemic. And that had, as you guys can tell, a really bad impact on the whole shows, on the actors, on everyone, really. Even though nominated movies were more accessible than ever, with most of them with just a click away on streaming services on demand, you could just watch the movie. However, the pandemic did have a toll on that as well, because the advertising and marketing that usually accompanies the Oscar films didn't happen. the marketing was not the same. And we weren't going to theaters. We weren't being exposed to trailers and other marketing materials. We didn't specifically seek out. You know what I mean? We didn't search the movie up on Google or YouTube to see what it's about. Versus when you go to a movie theater, they show you the trailers before you watch your actual movie. So you have an idea of what you like or dislike or what you want to watch in the future. And that was not something they had in hand, which is very unfortunate, especially that I'm pretty sure there were movies that deserved the recognition and deserved the success that they had planned for them. And, you know, as a result, many viewers like us were never exposed to any information about the films, and they were movies that were nominated for awards. And that led to the muted award season, in which, you know, it had the lowest ratings, unfortunately. But I think that will change once theaters open up again and more people feel safe venturing out and seeing more movies, and the world is more at peace or at ease out there. It's more safe. I think that will change and people would be more likely to watch the Oscars. So that was for a bit of right now. In the last segment, we will venture more into what happened and who not got nominated and who won. Stay tuned, guys. I can't wait.
Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is the podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
Yo guys, what's up? It's been a whole episode full of Grey's Anatomy, and we are almost at the end where we're going to talk about the Oscars. Before we dig deep into that more, what did we talk about in the previous segments? We talked about Derek Shepherd and Meredith Grey having their beach wedding, finally their McDream wedding on the show, because as you all know by now, Meredith had COVID and she was in a coma, and she had a dream coma where she saw previous characters that passed on the show seasons ago, and we saw characters coming back, actors that we missed coming back on the show. One of them is Patrick Dempsey, Derek Shepherd, and we finally got to see that. We got to see their wedding, and that was remarkable. That was very iconic for the couple. We talked about that. We also talked about how Mark and Lexi also were characters that are very, very beloved, and they came back on the show, and how a lot of people made speculations as whether they're back together after life or not, or they got reunited. And I think that's what happened. They got reunited and they're together in the afterlife. We also talked about how Derek was able to help Meredith make a decision whether she wants to stay with him in the afterlife or fight to stay on Earth with her children. And she made the decision to stay with her children. And that's when she woke up and Zola was hugging her, and she said, "We love you," which she meant referring to Derek and her together, because they both love her very, 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 very well. And then that's all for Grey's Anatomy, and not to mention the number you guys can call to listen to Derek's last message to Meredith. And then we talked about the Oscars and their low ratings. and the 2021 low ratings were not a surprise to many because there's many reasons as to why this happened. One of them is all the social media platforms that offer people that the demands of watching things within seconds or just seeing a summary of what's going on. And then it's unfortunate that it only attracted 9.8 million viewers versus in 1998 when it had over 57 million people that tuned in. But not to forget, at that time, there were only TVs available and people had no other opportunities or no other chances of watching the show except if they tuned in. But now people have options, which is available for them, and that is Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. It's all there for them, and that's why the show did not make enough ratings. Also, the pandemic, theaters were closed. People did not have the option to go watch theaters. The marketing tactics were all over. They did not have the opportunity to even broadcast what they want to broadcast, even with movies that were very, very highly anticipated for people to watch. Like I mentioned in the previous segment, I talked about the fact that you go to theaters and trailers are one of the best marketing tactics that, producers use, or movies, or what helps movies, or what gives people, the audience, an opportunity to look for something else to watch after the movie they're watching for. But you know what I mean. And that wasn't there for them. So they kind of had to look for something else in order to make the movie there, even if it's on demand and they were only a click away from your phone to watch. But it's not as easy as it is as just going to the theater and watching the trailer beforehand and having an idea about the movie. So the pandemic definitely had a toll on it. And I think there's hope for the future, and I think it will get better, even if it's been falling for a few years now. But the TV has changed since 1998, and everything, all products and broadcasting models have changed. So they should have expected for things like that to happen when streaming services like Netflix are more on demand right now, and people just want to watch what they want, when they want, whenever they want to do so. But it's still an iconic award show, and I think there are historic moments that had to do with it, and I think they should keep going with it. And there are many actors and actresses or people that worked in movies behind the scenes that deserve the recognition and the hard work, and this award show gives them that opportunity to be seen in the spotlight. Hey guys, and here are the winners for the 93rd Academy Awards for the best films. We will talk about Nomadland because it was the night's biggest winner with 3 Oscars in total, taking home the most golden trophies of any movie. And the film won Best Picture and also won Best Director for Chloe Zhao, who became only the second woman ever to win the award. And then Dormand made history on Sunday night, also earned Best Actress. With her wins, McDormand became the first woman to win Oscars for both Best Picture and Best Actress. Yes, we love women winning. And tied Meryl Streep's record of 3 Best Actress wins. She also, because she previously won Oscars for her previous work. Anthony Hopkins pulled off the night's biggest upset with his Best Actor win over the presumed frontrunner, the late Chadwick Boseman, who starred in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Meanwhile, Daniel Kaluuya won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Judas the Black Messiah, and Minari star Yoo Jung-yoon won Best Supporting Actress. And there are way more winners, and we will be talking about that more. There were many movies that were nominated for Best Original Screenplay: Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Sound of Metal, The Trial of the Chicago 7, Promising Young Woman, and the winner was Promising Young Woman. Best Adapted Screenplay: The Father, Borat subsequent movie film, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, The White Tiger, and The Father was the winner. Best International Feature Film: Another Round, Better Days, Collective, The Man Who Sold His Skin, and then the Bosnian movie, Quo Vadis Ida. I hope I'm saying it correctly. I really hope I'm saying it correctly. And the winner is Another Round, Denmark. Best Actor in Supporting Role: Sacha Baron Cohen, The Trial of the Chicago 7, Danielle Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah, Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami, Paul Rossi, Sound of Metal, Lakeith Stanfield, Judas and the Black Messiah, and the winner was Danielle Kaluuya, who played in Judas and the Black Messiah. Best Makeup and Hairstyling: Emma, Hailey Bailey Elgie. Winner was the Ma Rainey Black Bottom. Also, there was Pinocchio that was also nominated, and Mank. Best Costume Design: Emma was nominated, Mank, Mulan, Pinocchio, Ma Rainey Black Bottom, and that was the winner. I have not watched that movie. I always tell myself I'm going to watch it, but I just get busy. I will watch it. It's on Netflix. I believe it is, because I was on Netflix the other day. Best Directing: Another Round, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and like I said before, Nomadland won. Best Sound: The Sound of Metal was the winner for this. There were other ones that were nominated, such as, actually Soul was the winner. Sound of Metal was nominated. Greyhound was also nominated. News of the World and Mank were also nominated. I love the movie Soul. It actually does deserve it. Very, very well deserved. Best Live Action Short Films. I love short films. I think they're very, very hard to execute because you have to kind of include a full idea in such a short film, but they have so much depth into them that in 1 minute it tells a full story, and it has no plot holes. It's very hard. That's why, because you kind of have to execute a full story that has a lot of meanings to it in a very short term. And many movies were nominated, such as The Present, White Eye, The Letter Room, Feeling Through, Two Distant Strangers, and Two Distant Strangers was the winner for Best Live Action Short Film. Best Animated Short Film: If Anything Happens, I Love You, Boro, Genius Loki, Oprah, and Yes, People. And If Anything Happens, I Love You won. Best Animated Feature Film: Onward, Over the Moon, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Soul, Wolf Walkers, and Soul won. Definitely well deserved. I think that's actually one of the best movies that Walt Disney Studios have animated in a long time. I feel like there's a lot of repetition going on right now, and this movie kind of is different. It's definitely different. Best Documentary Short Subject: There is a Concreto, Is a Conversation, Do Not Split, Hunger Ward, A Love Song for Latasha, and Colette, and the movie Colette won. Best Documentary Feature: Collective, Crip Camp, The Mole Agent, My Octopus Teacher, and Time. And then the filmmaker by Craig Foster, My Octopus Teacher, was the one that won that night. Best visual effects. We have Love and Monsters, The Midnight Sky, Mulan, The One and Only Yvonne, and Antoinette. Tinette won. Sorry, I don't know why that took me so long. My brain had a brain freeze for a second. I knew that, but my brain just had a brain freeze. I apologize. Best Actress in Supporting Role. And we have Glenn Close, Mariah Bakalova, Olivia Colman, Amanda Seyfried, and Yoo Jung-yoon in Minari. And she was the winner. And then for Best Production Design, we have The Father, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, News of the World, and Tenet. And the winner was Mank. And then Best Cinematography, we have Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, News of the World, Nomadland, The Trial of the Chicago 7, and the winner was Mank. Best Film Editing, The Father, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, or The Trial of the Chicago 7, and Sound of Metal won. Best Original Score, The Five Bloods, Mank, Minari, News of the World, Soul, and the winner was Soul. Best Original Song was won by Fight for You, the movie Judas and the Black Messiah. Best Picture, Nomadland. Best Actress in a Leading Role, Frances McDormand, like we mentioned. Best Actor in a Leading Role, Anthony Hopkins in The Father. And there were many other actors that were obviously nominated, such as Chadwick Boseman, Gary Oldman, Stephen Yeun, Riz Ahmed. And for Best Actress as well, there were Viola Davis, Andra Day, Vanessa Kirby, and many others. Actually, I think there was like one more. But I think everyone was very well deserved. And that's really all for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys did watch the Oscars. If you did not, I don't blame you. It's all out there. You could all just watch what happened. And I hope you guys have a great day and see you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Entertainment Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.